Hello everybody, my name is Hammock. Today I'm going to give a quick explanation about every single neutral creep in case you're playing someone like Chen or another person who uses neutral creeps such as Doom and Enchantress. I play Chen quite a bit, and this information is somewhat relevant. So we can go and look at them by going on the Learn tab, Glossary, Units, and we're going to start from small neutral camps and scroll down. I'm just going to give basic information. You can go into here to get all the information you need, but I'm going to give you the stuff that you just need to get going. There's the Kobold Foreman, which gives a movement speed buff. This is very good. You're not necessarily going to use this early on, but later on this is an amazing buff. Kobold Soldier, don't worry about it. It has a disarm ability, but it requires the unit to like hit them, and this unit's got basically no HP, so like outside of very niche situations, you're not going to get value out of this creep. The regular Kobold gives a gold aura, not really worth spending one of your 4 slots of like creeps to have this. You can get it from the shovel anyway. The Vaul Assassin, this is a nice harass creep early in the laning stage. It has Pierce, which means it does bonus damage to creeps. So if you have a bunch of creeps that do piercing damage, you can last hit and deny a little bit better. It has the Envenomed Weapon, which does a little bit of damage, but primarily as heal reduction. So if you're trading with someone, hitting them with this creep, then their tangos heal a little bit less, and it also helps for trading against someone who's got pretty good sustain, like say like an IO, or someone with a heal ability like Warlock's W. The Hill Troll Priest, this is kind of useful if you're losing the lane or you just had a bad harass. You can grab this creep, use it to heal yourself, and then go grab a better creep. This is one of those situations where you aren't in control of what creeps spawn, and if you see this, it can circumstantially be useful for healing, but otherwise you probably don't want this in your group the entire time. The Hill Troll Berserker, this one has break and has a ranged attack. It's situationally pretty good early on, but once you get to the point in the game, sort of at the end of laning stage where all the carries have their items, or they're starting to get online with items, this creep just dies in basically one hit to any AoE spell, so don't rely on this to be your counter for a Bristleback or a Tidehunter. This is a short-term fix to a laning issue, but later on, don't rely on this creep. Back to the Kobold Foreman, speed boost, very good. These basically come grouped in the camps that they're in. Ghost, this is probably your second best and situationally best laning harass creep. It's got a frost attack, it's ranged, and it moves pretty quickly. When it hits an enemy, it gives them a move slow and attack slow. So anyone you're trading with, if you hit them with the Ghost, you're likely to win the exchange unless they just have a really, really strong trading power. So this is a really good creep, and later on you can also use them to go stack camps if there's downtime. The Fell Spirit, this is a very squishy creep that has a low amount of mana, so there's only a few situations where you can keep casting this spell, but it's situationally very good. For instance, if you're playing into a Pudge, once the laning stage ends and they're roaming around going for dismembers, having this creep on you is very helpful because throwing a 3-second duration silence on the Pudge to interrupt his dismember is very good. Outside of laning stage and roaming around, you're probably not going to get much value out of this creep since it is very low HP and it doesn't provide any aura value. But situationally, having a silence that lasts 3 seconds is still pretty good, albeit the range is quite short, so you have to get this creep close enough and hope it doesn't die. The Harpy Stormcrafter is your best laning harass creep. It falls off after laning stage, but does pretty good damage, and does it at a good range. It does cost mana, and the creep doesn't have a lot of mana regen, but I recommend when playing Chen to buy a Ring of Basilius in the laning stage, which will not only give you mana, your ally mana, but it also gives your creeps mana. This will allow you to keep harassing with the Harpy. Try to keep this creep as alive as possible, and it's very lucky if you can get it very early on with random chance from your small camp, because once you have this, you're likely to dominate the lane. The Harpy Scout, this one is very situational. You can use its takeoff fly vision to fly up onto cliff spots as like a little temporary ward. You could use this if you're sieging a T2 tower on your own and send it towards like the triangle area of the enemy team. and get some vision if anyone's coming to go after you, but otherwise it is situational. I don't recommend taking this if you see it, unless you have a plan in mind for it. And the Polywog, this is one of the new frog river type creeps that have been added in 7.38. They come in two phases. The one that gives the shield, and the one that gives the sort of like tiny Tidehunter like ravage ability. This has they all have a innate like sort of aura, and this one only starts with the aura and no active ability. It is quite situational, but it has pretty good abilities. It gives you a movement speed bonus similar to the Kobold Foreman, although a little bit better, and boosts outgoing damage, which is quite good. However, both of these effects only apply when the unit is standing in the water. This can be good if you are taking, say, mid tower, Roshan, or safe lane tier 2, because there is water access nearby that you can park this creep nearby, and then its aura range should affect anyone next to the tower or Roshan fighting it. So situationally, if you know you're gonna go kill a tower and then go get Roshan in your next plan, you can take this creep, but otherwise it is still very situational, so I wouldn't have this in your repertoire. Now we go to the medium neutral camps. The Ogre Frost Mage, one of my favorite. I consider this creep one of the S tiers. It applies ice armor as an active ability, so if you are new to Chen and you just want to have a bunch of aura creeps, I probably wouldn't recommend this, since you need to manually switch to this creep and then apply the frost armor to one of your allies. You can also use it on units, and it has a mana cost. I recommend when you're assigning control groups, you have a bunch of auxiliary control groups for specific creeps. I have my F2 bound specifically for Ogre Frost Mage, just so whenever I get it, I can immediately press F2, give myself frost armor, and then have it like queue up to walk towards an ally to give them frost armor as well. And you can just have this guy walking around updating everybody. It gives a pretty good amount of armor, which scales up as you level and you get your shard. And basically anyone who attacks that person gets a move slow and attack slow. So it's very good buff to have on people. The Ogre Bruiser, this is situational. I would recommend not taking this creep unless it's the early game. You have to leave lane because you want to give your carry more farm, or it's too dangerous for you to be there, in which case you want to go jungle to get like levels and money. Then you can take this creep. It's really good for clearing camps. You can take it and then have it charge up its Ogre Smash, which has got a delay, hits, does a lot of damage to creeps, and has like a stun also, so it's very good for clearing camps. And you can use this to farm, but once you've farmed enough and you're fighting with your team, I wouldn't recommend this. You can theoretically do a chain stun situation with Centaur into Ogre Smash, but it's a big wind up, it's very telegraphed, it's likely not going to work, but you can give it a try. The Alpha Wolf, this is also an S tier creep, especially if you've got a stat heavy carry, for instance, like Morphling, Void Spirit, I think PA also, people who just build their primary stat primarily in their items, as this gives a 30% damage bonus. This 30% damage bonus does not apply to additional damage. So say you buy something like Mjolnir that just gives plus damage, or Desolator that gives plus damage. The plus 30% damage doesn't apply to that. It only applies to the main base damage. So again, if someone's like Morphling, they're buying a lot of agility, then this is really good with them. And even if you haven't got like a primary stat carry, I would, if I see this creep and I'm collecting my 4 creeps to have with me, I'm likely always going to take an Alpha Wolf just because it's great. And the Giant Wolf, you're probably not going to use this unless early game jungling. You'll say like level 5, level 4, and you're jungling some small camps to try and get some XP, then it's pretty okay for farming, since you can hit every creep in the camp, reduce their damage, and make it easier for you to jungle with whatever creeps you have. But otherwise, wouldn't recommend taking this. Mud Golem, situational. I'm not sure if they've changed this, but a while ago, this creep was a very good creep for attacking towers with, because its damage type basically, I don't know the right terminology here, but it wasn't exactly a reinforced creep like the Nature's Prophet facet that makes the big tree and hit towers really hard, but its damage was on average better at hitting towers than other creeps. So if you wanted to just grab a creep and just chuck it into a tower that's like 10% HP, this is a good creep for it, but I could be wrong. I haven't checked this in a long time. Otherwise, it's a very situational creep. It's got a projectile mini stun, so if you're pathing over to a lane where a fight is about to happen and you don't have a creep, you can get this creep, throw in the projectile stun, it goes on cooldown for 30 seconds, so you're likely not going to use it, and this is likely just a creep that you take and then throw into a tower and use them very disposably, since they do also shard into like 2 or like I think 3 when you get like shard upgrade. So yeah, this is just kind of a disposable creep that I wouldn't recommend usually. The Satyr Mindstealer, this one a lot of people dislike, especially since you can get it from a facet, which allows you to just have it at level 1. It's got the very strong ability of burning people's mana away, which early game, before everyone had arcane boots and items of mana regeneration, this is a very expensive effect to apply to someone. Having to like steal their mana, especially if there's someone who has high mana costs for trading in lane, like say like an Undying or a Bane, if you're burning away their mana, that's mangoes and clarities they have to buy, or dying and respawning they have to do to get it back. So mana burn is a very powerful lane trading tool. It also provides its own mana aura of mana regen. If you see this creep early on, especially if you manage to get a Harpy Stormcrafter, I recommend taking this, since this mana regen aura will also apply to the Harpy, giving you more mana regen. It's also great to have this creep in your lineup if you have a Medusa or a Zeus or a Lesh core in your team who are very like mana hungry. The Satyr Banisher, sorry. This creep is quite squishy. It's a low HP creep, but it's got a pretty strong effect of a basic dispel. Again, I probably wouldn't have this in my lineup all the time, but if I'm going against someone with annoying effects, like a bounty hunter that can track you, or a Slardar that can reduce your armor, I would take this creep just to dispel the effects, or to use it on an enemy that applies a buff. Like if I'm going into an Omni Knight that can apply all these effects that are basic dispellable, I would take this just to punish them and dispel their effects. So this is a situational creep that, based on the situation, this is a very powerful effect. The Centaur Conqueror, you're going to see this a lot. This is a pretty standard creep. Once you get your power spike of level 5, Holy Persuasion, level 3, grab this creep, go gank. See if you can find people out of position, maybe gank mid if they're pushed up and you've got your mid is responsive. Then you can send the Conqueror over, get the stun. It's an AoE stun. It's got a little bit of a wind up to it, but it stuns for a pretty good duration. I like comboing this either with Force Staff or the Wild Wing Ripper, which we'll get to fly the Conqueror or the enemy hero into it to then get a stun. You can also chain stun with this, so when in doubt, if you don't know what creeps to get and you see a lot of Centaur camps, you can just grab a bunch of these and Centaur stun, tab switch, Centaur stun, tab switch, Centaur stun, and basically play a meepo and just spam this person until they die. Pretty good creep early on. I wouldn't recommend taking it outside of like early mid-game like fights, because again, creeps tend to not scale very well with HP and resistances. So early game you can have this guy walk up and stomp somebody, but outside of that early game, by the time the Centaur gets close to them, any core has just killed it already. The Centaur Corsa, another S tier creep in my opinion. I should probably make a tier list. If I've made a tier list, I'll put it up on screen near the end of the video anyway. Cloak Aura gives magic resistance as an aura, which is a very valuable effect. If people want to get magic resist, usually they'd have to buy a cloak, which I think is like 800 gold for 20% magic resist, or buy a pipe, which I think is like 3,000, 4,000 gold to give like everyone 10% magic resist and also a magic like bubble. You can get the Cloak Aura. It's essentially free as long as you find one of these creeps. And it stacks with other forms of magic resist, although I think it's multiplicative, but you can see the number of magic resist you have on your character at any given moment. This is a very good effect. If I'm playing into mass magic damage, guarantee I'm getting this creep if I can. And even if I'm not into like a lot of magic damage, I'm still going to round out my auras by taking this creep. The Boglet, again, I talked about the different variations. This is the one with the stun, and this is the one with the magical like bubble. So they both, I think, have the same in a, with the aura, with the standing in the water, speed, outgoing damage, situational. The Arm of the Deep, these all start to scale as they go, as you get like better ones. The Arm of the Deep like stun is quite good. It's like a cone, like mini type of ravage type thing. It's very good. You can do that to hit a bunch of people and then set up for a centaur stun. It's a very good effect. I'll take this early on for ganking, but then again later on, as the enemies get stronger, I'm less likely to use my creeps to run up and go for active like kill effects on people, just because the creeps then become much more squishy as the game goes on. So you want to keep them further away from the combat to keep the auras up for consistent value. And since, depending on whether or not you're fighting near water, these auras are going to be either very useful or not useful at all. So it's better to go with something like a Corsair or an Alpha Wolf, which is always providing value. Here's the active effect from the Marsh Mage. This is one that you can also get from the Convert. It's also very situational. It provides a barrier to block magic damage, similar to like a Glimmer Cape or a Pipe. And the later versions of this creep also heal for a certain amount of damage that was like resisted by the effect. So it's kind of also like an Abaddon shield a little bit too. This can be good if you're into a magic harass lane like a Zeus or a Skywrath, but otherwise it has quite a high mana cost. You can maybe cast it 2 or 3 times before the creep is out of mana, even if you built a Bassi. So I think it's situational. It's going to be like the Mud Golem situation, where you take the creep, you use it for a couple times, and then once it's like on cooldown or out of mana, you just dispose of it and get a new creep. On to the large neutral camps. Centaur Conqueror, good. Already talked about that. Centaur Corsair. Dark Troll Summoner, one of my favorite, S tier. It allows you to raise the dead. It allows you to summon 3 skeletons. The skeletons sadly aren't in this glossary. They should update that. The skeletons basically give a stackable aura of +2 attack damage, which works on you guys, on heroes, but also on creeps. So what you do is you get a Dark Troll Summoner, you allow it to raise the dead, get 3 skeletons. Those skeletons then buff all your heroes and the creep wave with damage, and then this allows you to take towers really, really well. So if you're playing in a game where the enemy team has got a lot of catch, they're grouping up and they're killing you guys really easy, grab a bunch of Dark Troll Summoners, send them on their own little scout mission, hiding in the shadows in the edge of the map, sneak to like where one of the towers are, and then just play like a League of Legends, ZZ Rock Portal, Heroes of the Storm, Abathur, and just like rat out a bunch of creeps until you whittle down the towers. It's kind of fun. Not everyone's gonna like this, but hey, if you're playing Chen, you might as well consider this strategy, because getting towers and objectives is kind of your deal. Hill Troll is the weaker version that you get earlier on. It's got Pierce, making it pretty good for going for denies and last hits early on in the laning stage. And it's got the Ensnare, which is like a ranged like root, similar to like the Meepo Naga Siren one, but you click on like one person. This is pretty good early game. Say you took the Convert, this is my preferred facet to take. Level 1 invades, you can catch someone with the Ensnare to set up for your teammates, or allowing you to like catch and like set up with like a Pudge Hook or like a Mirana arrow or something. The Hellbear Smasher, this is a very nice creep. I'll go over the Hellbear first, just because they've got similar effects. So the Hellbear has a passive where people nearby get attack speed. Very good, pretty much always good. And then when the Hellbear dies, anyone in like a short radius gets a lot more attack speed, like 120 for 5 seconds. This is really good for if you're like trading in lane. Say you take the Hellbear facet, which is also very good. You can bait people by harassing them with the Hellbear, and then if they're about to kill it, you then try to move into the range of close to the Hellbear, so when it dies, you suddenly get the boost of attack speed and you can go bop, 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 and smack someone out of lane. And if they aren't aware of this effect, you can get a lot of successful trades out from them just not expecting you to just suddenly hit them for a lot of damage. similar with the Hellbear Smasher, except when they do their death throw, instead of increasing attack speed, it increases your base damage by 60% for 5 seconds, which, if we're playing with a Morphling or a Slark or like anyone who builds stats, maybe a Centaur, this is going to give a lot of damage for a short amount of time, but it is quite hard to position. Whenever I'm going for tower pushes on my own, if the enemy team have shown somewhere else and there's an exposed tower I can take, I'll take this creep, send it in first before the creep wave, so the tower focuses this down first. It then dies, I'll position its center of mass of the creep wave and myself, and then everything, including the laning creeps, get a big damage boost, which if you combo that with a drum, maybe even a Dark Troll Summoner, you could like clear a tower from full HP to 0 in one creep wave, assuming they don't send heroes or fortify, because Chen can be that powerful. It's also got the active ability, the Thunderclap, clap those cheeks, AoE, slow, pretty good damage. You can use this to farm camps, push waves, or just in a team fight, you can use this to slow someone down enough that maybe the Centaur can catch up and go for a stun. The Satyr Tormentor, this is the more powerful version of the Mind Stealer. So if you take the Mind Stealer, the Satyr Facet at level 4, you'll get this one. It's a really good health regen aura. It goes up to 11 if you've got the Aghanim Shard, which is a lot of health regen. Especially if you combo this with the Prowler that also gives health regen. You can get a lot of like healing that will heal up your creeps outside of a fight very well as your teammates. It's got the active ability, the Shockwave, that hits, it kind of, I call it the Hadouken, like Street Fighter. It goes in a line, but the projectile gets bigger as it goes, so it becomes kind of like a cone shape when it's done. It only does 160 damage, so it's good for early on, like trading and going after like enemies, like ganks early game. But later on, this isn't going to do a whole lot. You can just throw it in a team fight, why not? But where this excels is split pushing side lanes. So you're having like a team fight in like mid, and then bot lane is pushed pretty close up. You can go send this creep with a bunch of others maybe to go push up that side lane, so it gets to tower. So if you succeed the mid fight, you can then immediately go and take bot tower type situation. So you can go plan a bunch of moves ahead of the game by having your creeps push. This is a really good creep for pushing, same as the Dark Troll Summoner, same as the Hellbear Smasher, which are conveniently facets. So either one that you take of those will be very good for split pushing. The health regen applies to your lane creeps, keeping them healthy, and then you send the shockwave in at the creep wave, and it will weaken all of them, allowing you to push the wave out pretty quickly. The Wildwing Ripper, this is probably my favorite creep in general. It's S tier, it would be S plus tier if that was a thing. And if they made this a facet, I would pick this facet every game. It gives you a +3 armor aura, which doesn't stack sadly, so if you have 2 of these, it doesn't stack. However, their active ability is amazing. It's Hurricane. It works kind of like a vector target force staff, where you can click on someone and then click where you want them to go, and then they'll get hurricaned in that direction. You can use this to move someone while they're channeling. For instance, if you are teleporting, you can use this to move yourself while channeling the TP without breaking it. So you can like TP somewhere if you need to get out of a fight quickly, and use the hurricane to like push yourself onto high ground, or push yourself onto low ground, or just outside of line of sight to like quickly get yourself away if someone is coming for you. I think I've got a clip of that here.
Killing spree. Goodness.
It's also good for, you can use this on allies, you can use this on enemies, so you can use this to pull an enemy towards your centaur for the stun, as I said earlier. You can use this on the creep itself to move itself onto a high ground like cliff spot to de-ward a ward. if say you've got a sentry but you haven't got an observer, but you know an observer is on the cliff, you can use this creep to like hurricane itself up there to get it, and then you can either hurricane yourself down when the cooldown's done, or you can use divine favor to teleport it down. It's got a lot of uses situationally. Being able to push people, pull people, move them around is always going to be useful. And I'm pretty sure, yeah, wait, it goes through debuff immunity but on your allies, because it's like not a harmful effect. So if you've got an ally with BKB and they're TPing, but they've maybe like done BKB a little bit too early, like a jug spin like TP type situation, and you think they're gonna get stunned, you can use the hurricane to like move them away quickly before they get like stunned. And it's just very good. I would want this in my group every single time. And the regular Wild Wing, this is not particularly great. The Tornado's nice for harassing. It used to be a lot stronger because you could channel this, and as long as the Wild Wing was channeling it, the Tornado would stay up. So what you could do is you would take one of these, have it walk mid, channel the Tornado like pretty like close in, so the creep was like far back, maybe even into your like jungle area. Summon the Tornado and then slowly move the Tornado into mid, like roundabout in the middle of the wave, so it's just always like tickling them for damage and like reducing their, I think it also reduced their attack speed when they were in the Tornado too. It doesn't have the Tornado in this glossary too. The Tornado is technically its own unit, but I think it also reduces someone's attack speed when they're in the Tornado. So it was a really annoying harass, and they changed it now, so instead of it channeling the whole time, you summon it, the creep can then move around, and then the Tornado is in existence for a brief period of time and then disappears. It's still kind of nice to harass early on, but it's not the best creep, and it's probably a little bit too much like micro. Like, I have it set so F3 control group is Wild Wing and F4 is the Tornado, so that I can quickly go F3, click Q, F4, move it, but it's a lot of faffing around for not a really good effect, so like you don't have to worry with this creep, honestly. The Warpine Raider, this is a pretty nice creep. This is a relatively new creep before they added all the other ones. It's even got this little holly on it. The Siege Shot, it's like a projectile that bounces and does slow, and it bounces to new people. It does okay damage. It's pretty good for like clearing camps or like pushing side lanes or whatever. It's not like an S tier creep, but it's a creep where if I need some harass early on for ganking, if I've got a centaur, I got a Hellbear Smasher, and I need something else to harass with, I'll get a Warpine. This is a pretty good creep. It's not like the Mud Golem where I'll use the effect and then just kill the creep. I'll hold on to this creep for a while, but it definitely isn't as good as a creep that has like an aura effect or some other reason for me to hold on to it for a long amount of time. The Croaker, yeah, these are basically the same as the previous ones, except their effects are a little bit stronger. So yeah, same thing. And Ancient Neutral Creeps. So you can only get these once you get your Aghanim Shard. You should probably get your Aghanim Shard relatively soon, either like your second item or maybe even first item, depending on the lineup. These creeps are generally like better than most outside of certain circumstances. Ancient Black Dragon, really good creep, S tier. It provides an armor aura that stacks with itself, so you could get 4 Ancient Black Dragons, and then that armor stacks, so you get 12 armor. I'm good at counting. It's got the Fireball active ability that throws a fire. It's kind of like a mini Macropire type situation. You stand in it, you take more damage. Really good for clearing creep waves. Say you're defending base and you have a massive mega wave come in, you just throw this fireball on the ground and they're gone. And it's also great to like punish bad players who are playing standing still heroes like Drow or Sniper. If you're pushing into one of them, throw a fireball underneath their feet and see how long it takes them to realize. And it's also got the splash attack, so if you send this creep to go split push or clear camps, it can hit multiple creeps at the same time. Fantastic creep. Ancient Black Drake, situational. I wouldn't take this. It has an effect where if people are inside its aura, every aura is 1200 range, so once you get used to it, it's all going to be the same thing you can eyeball. Anything inside it takes more spell damage, which is like, if people are inside the range and close to you, which you don't want to be, you want to be like away from them. So this doesn't work a lot of times. There is a very situational reason why you'd have this, and I feel like it's worth mentioning because it's funny, but otherwise, don't bother with this creep. And that is if you've got the techies on your team, they put a bunch of mines somewhere to specifically like kill somebody. You can get this creep and then park it nearby, hidden in the trees so it's not being seen, nearby those mines. That way, anyone who gets close to the mines and enters the radius takes more spell damage from the mines. Ancient Granite Golem, S tier, maybe even S plus tier with the Wild Wing. Provides bonus max HP. So if you have Shard, that's 19% HP on top of your HP. Get this with an Undying or a Centaur, they're going to be quite happy. Be mindful though, this creep, while it is fantastic and amazing, be careful using this creep if you're against an AA. The ancient apparition, I don't remember. Ancient AA guy. Because they have an effect that stops healing and basically locks someone's health bar in place. So if they take more damage, eventually they get to a threshold and they die. If someone has been AA ulted, and then theoretically the Granite Golem, they are on the very edge of the aura and they're going in and out, in and out, in and out because they're not right next to the golem. They're like just a little bit away from the Chen and everyone's moving around. They will eventually die because it'll add on 90% of their HP, their health bar doesn't move, and then take it away, their health bar goes down. It adds on a little bit more, it doesn't move to compensate, they leave it, it goes down again, and they die. So eventually, you have to be careful about Granite Golem and AA, but it's a niche situation, but I feel like I should tell you about it because it's kind of annoying. Ancient Rock Golem, armor reduction, aura, it's like kind of similar, it's similar to the dragon one where you have to be in near it. It's more of just an inconvenience for like, if you are the person farming this camp, you now have less armor so it can kill you better. But I wouldn't take this creep. It might have a very situational use case, but I don't really care. Ancient Thunderhind, really good creep, S tier, especially if you've got a right click carry. It has an active effect where you can give it to someone and it gives them bonus attack speed, kind of like a Solar Crest effect. It also has got a slam effect where it does a slow and like around the area do damage. Pretty good for waves. It's high mana cost though. This creep hasn't got a lot of mana, so if you use these abilities and you're spamming Frenzy and Penitence and Drum and Solar Crest to give whoever core you have experiencing the cap of attack speed, you're gonna have to use Arcane Boots or something because this is gonna run out of mana. And the Rumblehide, one of my favorite creeps, and a creep that doesn't get used super often, at least when I'm watching other Chens. It also provides an attack speed aura similar to the Potato, but it also gives an accuracy aura. This is the only case, as far as I'm aware, in the game of the accuracy effect. This is the effect that counters evasion. So if you're against someone who has like strong evasion, like a Windrunner or maybe a Phantom Assassin, you want to get this because it gives you an aura that essentially gives everyone an MKB. Now, does this mean that you shouldn't buy an MKB on your core? No, but it is a band-aid for early game. So you're going against a PA, you know the evasion's going to be a problem. Maybe you're going against a Necrophos who's got a Radiance, and you worry about the evasion being a problem. Get the Shard, grab this creep, steal it under the nose of your core who's trying to farm a camp and doesn't know the value that he's taking from you. And basically you win the game and everyone's hitting the PA around to worry about the MKB. Later on, they should probably buy an MKB because, you know, they can just kill the creep if they know what's going on. But early game and mid game, this solves a lot of problems where you have an evasion hero that's a problem. Ancient Ice Shaman, it's good. It's pretty good at taking towers, but that's about it. You throw an active ability, it does damage over time, and it does it to towers. So you get this creep and you take down the tower, and that's about it. Otherwise, I wouldn't really bother with this creep. The Frostbitten Golem, this is S tier, maybe S plus tier. This is an aura that provides cooldown reduction. This is a very expensive effect to get, otherwise you need to get Octarine Core, I think, to get something like this. So, especially if you've got people who've got long-ass cooldowns, like a Tidehunter or a Faceless Void, getting a 12-14% cooldown reduction is very nice. The way this works though is they have to be inside the aura and cast the spell. So if there's someone like a Tidehunter, maybe it's going to have less value because they're likely to blink away from where you are and ravage. But if you're nearby a carry who's just constantly spamming spells, then 14% cooldown reduction is pretty nice. It's pretty good. And these Prowlers that came back recently, I don't know too much about these because I started playing Chen after they were initially removed, so this patch is kind of my first time experiencing them. This guy, the Prowler Shaman, these actives are pretty good, although they are quite high mana cost. This creep has got a lot of good stats, so you can pretty much mid-game, maybe not late game, but mid-game, send this guy in and he's probably not going to die. And he does quite a bit of damage and harass, so this is a good creep to actually throw into a big like team fight and hit a lot of people, and in the process also CC them and reduce their base armor. This is only base armor. I haven't fully tested this, but I'm assuming if it's someone who has built a lot of armor, it's not going to do a whole lot. But if you're playing against glass cannons, this is going to be fantastic. In fact, it probably even sets up really well for someone on your team with a Desolator like a PA. And then the Ancient Prowler Acolyte, which is fantastic. I really like this aura. It provides an insane health regen aura and a lifesteal aura. So if you have this creep with the Vladimir's offering, you're getting all this extra lifesteal. I'm unsure how well lifesteal stacks, if it does stack, but either way, if you don't have a Vladimir's, this is an amazing creep to have if you've got like a right-click comp that gets a lot of lifesteal. And then the Ancient Croaker and Marsh Mage, again, these are similar to the other ones, except they're just stronger. These scale up over time as the watery area turns into more and more ancient camps. I would likely take the Ancient Croaker later on if I didn't have any other options for ancient creeps, and I just want a big guy to run in and do a bunch of damage. But otherwise, their effects are still very situational, especially when it comes to pushing into the base where there is a lot less water. Yeah, these are going through the creeps. I'm going to make a quick tier list and probably find updated images of these croakers and put it on screen now just to give you a quick and handy reference of which creeps you should get just in case you don't remember. And hopefully this has been helpful.